All right, today we are going to pull back the curtain on a really critical piece of the cloud puzzle, the AWS Security Group. You can think of it as the silent, invisible guardian for your servers. So let's break down exactly how it works.
Okay, let's just imagine this for a second. You've just spun up a brand new server in the cloud. It's live, it's got a public IP address, which means, yep, it's connected to the entire internet. So the big question is, who do you actually let knock on the door?
Well, the answer to that question is what AWS calls a security group. And honestly, the best way to think about it is as your server's own personal virtual gatekeeper.
So what is this thing, really? At its core, a security group is a virtual firewall. It's not some piece of hardware you can touch, it's just a set of rules that you attach to your instance. And the key thing to know is that it's stateful. All that means is if you allow a request to come in, the firewall is smart enough to automatically allow the response to go back out. You don't have to write a second rule for it. It just works.
Okay, so how does this gatekeeper actually make its decisions? Well, it all comes down to a really simple but incredibly powerful set of rules. Let's take a look at how those actually work.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. There's a huge difference between inbound and outbound rules. Outbound, that's traffic leaving your server, is totally open by default. Your server can go out and talk to the internet, no problem. But inbound, traffic coming to your server, is completely locked down. By default, absolutely nothing is allowed in. It's what we call a deny by default setup.
And that brings us to maybe the single most important rule of security groups. And honestly, this is the one that trips a lot of people up at first. You can only create rules to allow traffic in. There is no such thing as a deny rule. You can't explicitly block someone. You just don't invite them to the party. If a rule doesn't exist to specifically allow traffic, it's blocked, period.
So what do these allow rules look like? Well, they're usually based on a protocol, like TCP, and a port number. For example, if you want to securely manage your server, you'll open up port 22 for SSH. If you're hosting a website, you need to open port 80 for HTTP. Every service has its own standard port, and you get to decide which doors you want to open for business.
All right, that's enough theory. Let's see how this all plays out in a real-world situation. Let's tell a little story about a brand new web server and what happens when it gets its very first visitor.
So here's what we do. We launch a fresh new instance. And being security-minded, we create a security group that allows only SSH traffic on port 22. That's so we can log in and do our work. We attach the group, we log in, and we install our Nginx web server. Everything looks good.
The software is running, the server is live on the internet, we grab its public IP address, paste it into our browser, and we hit enter. So, what do you think happens next?
Absolutely nothing. The browser just spins, and eventually, connection timed out. A request never even reached the web server. It's like we knocked on the door, but nobody was home to even hear it.
And this shows the concept perfectly. Why did it fail? Because our virtual gatekeeper was doing its job. We only gave it one single rule: allow SSH on port 22. So when our browser came knocking on port 80 for web traffic, the gatekeeper just looked at its list, saw no rule for port 80, and dropped the connection on the spot.
But here is the real beauty of security groups. We don't have to panic or rebuild anything. We can fix this right now on the fly. Let's go open the gate.
And the solution couldn't be simpler. All we have to do is go into the settings for that security group and add one more inbound rule: allow traffic on TCP port 80. That's it. And here's the really crucial part. The moment you click Save, that new rule is active. I mean, instantly. You don't have to restart the server, you don't have to reconfigure any software, the change is just live. So now we go back to our browser, we hit the refresh button, and success. The web page loads up perfectly. By just adding that one little rule, we told the gatekeeper to let web traffic in, and it started doing it immediately.
That simple little story really captures the power of security groups. So let's wrap this all up by boiling it down into a few key best practices you should always keep in mind.
First, it's a really good idea to use separate groups for different jobs, like one just for management access and another for your actual application. Second, remember you can stack them up. You can attach multiple groups to one server. And the opposite is true too. One security group can be attached to hundreds of servers. And of course, the big one, any changes you make happen right away.
So I'll just leave you with this thought. Your security groups are your first and maybe your most important line of defense in the cloud. They are the gatekeepers. So the only question left is, are your gates configured correctly?
Thanks for tuning in to this explainer.